which is where I am. Wayne County used to encompass all of Michigan, all of northern Ohio, and went as far west as Wisconsin and Chicago, Illinois. So
Really?
it was kind of huge, yeah. Anyhow, so we're talking about, is chivalry dead?
Yes.
Okay, that was a very fast podcast. That is the fastest podcast we've ever done. Problem solved.
Let me help out and say no.
We've got some disagreement right off the bat. So we've got a couple articles that were shot my way. Who shot me this one?
Amy, I think? Or was it me?
The 21 Lost Gentlemen traditions that still apply today?
I mean, I'm on Facebook here.
And the 21 Lost Lady traditions. This was shot to me by Amy.
Yeah,
Amy.
A friend of mine posted those, and I actually put them on the group page before I read them. So I was like, oh, this sounds like something we could argue about. So
Okay, well, that's fine.
no, not argue.
Okay, so here's the deal on this, and we've already started. I'll go first. I'll go first on this one. Here's the deal. I don't think that chivalry is dead. I just don't. But I will say, this article is really cool. You know, the 21 Lost Gentlemen traditions that still apply today. And if you're listening, you can click on the links for both these articles we have. We also have 21 Lost Lady traditions that still apply today. Two different websites. I think one was in response to the other. But I think that chivalry still exists. But I feel like this forward progression of the dating scene today has really made a lot of men afraid to be chivalrous. And I'm not talking about, like, being a knight, putting on armor and jumping on a horse and things like that and saving a damsel from a tower from the dragon, right, and the witch. But I think things like I've always had the practice of, in my dating life, if I ask someone out on a date, it has always been my understanding that a man should pick up the tab. I asked you out. I have asked you for your time and your company. The least I can do is pay for your meal. But I think a lot of women today, for a couple of reasons, don't allow men to pay for meals. They'll say things like, I'm an independent woman, I have my job, I'm outside of the home, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And I don't think that women should necessarily be in the home or have to stay at home. But a lot of them want to show I am equally as I have the equal ability to pay for this meal that you do. Or a lot of women feel like, I've dated a lot of guys, and when they pay for a meal, even if I don't feel like things are going well, they expect a kiss or way more, right? They expect sex too. And I've had women tell me that, and this is 21st century dating, right? So I think a lot of men are afraid to be gentlemen in today's culture because of those kinds of issues.
Well, if chivalry was still alive, you would have let the ladies speak first, Calvin.
Shut your mouth. What are you doing out of the kitchen?
Yeah,
Kent, go.
Wait, I've got shoes on. Let me take them off. No, I mean, I didn't even read this article in terms of dating. Yes, you can apply it to dating, but to me, when I read this, true story, the very day that I posted this saying, hey, should we talk about this, I went to Safeway on my lunch break to grab some soup or something from the deli for lunch. These two guys were walking down the sidewalk. I was going like straight into the door from the parking lot, and they were approaching down the sidewalk in front of the store like they'd parked on the side of the building, right? They stopped in front of me. Like, we all met at the door at the same time. They stopped in front of me. They turned around and said, you gonna get the door? I just remember standing there thinking, well, first of all, it opens automatically, so I don't have to actually open the door. But they were standing there not to let me walk in front of them first, but to like open the door for them or something. It was just so bizarre, and I remember thinking, why would they even say that? Why would they just not take a step back and let me walk in first? Just little.
That's so odd. That's so weird.
It was really odd. And I have other things too, like we have several offices that share the same building, and I have had multiple times. There's this guy who works in one of the offices upstairs, who I'm walking in as he's walking out. He will actually, the glass doors, I can see him. He can see me coming. He will stop inside the building and wait for me to go through the door first, as in he'll stand there and wait for me to open the door to let myself in, and then he'll follow out like he's stopping for me to open the door for myself and for him. And I just remember thinking, shouldn't you like hurry to open the door for me?
You
Just
need to
like,
move to Michigan. You just need to move to Michigan because
What?
Colorado is not cutting it for you.
Easy.
no, it's just weird. Well, it's Colorado.
I thought that's where they had like focus on the family and men were like super traditional and all that stuff out there.
The guys that focus were even worse. Trust me.
Okay, all right, we won't go there for you. I know.
No, most of the guys who work there are. Never mind.
Okay, so Kara and Kent, what do you guys think?
Well, at this point, I would really like to know what the guys that focus on the family are like. But we can
Don't get her started.
I can tell
we
you.
can get to that at a different time, I guess.
To edit it out. That's all I'm saying.
Every time I hear stories like this, I have to admit I'm a little flummoxed, and I feel like I'm hearing a story about an alien culture because because when I'm outside, let's put it this way, when I'm outside and I'm getting from one place to another, be it in a city, on the street, going from a parking lot into a building, going from a parking lot into a building, I'm holding the door for everybody, men or women, unless it's a ostentatiously long time that I have to stand there like a jerk holding the door, and then it's awkward because they have to change their stride and they hurry up, and then we have to make small talk. But if I'm the first in line at something, I mean, I will always hold the door. It gives me a momentary, jolt of elevated self-worth, I guess, that I can be nice to another human being. Similarly, a couple of months ago, there was a resurgence of this story about women getting catcalled and on the street. There was a
we did a podcast on that.
Oh yeah, I heard it. Women getting catcalled on the street. There was a very popular segment on the Daily Show starring Jessica Williams, their young female correspondent, who did a piece there that went viral on how far she could walk without to work getting catcalled. And when I'm on the street, and I've walked Detroit, not a lot, but I've walked Chicago and New York more than I have Detroit probably, and really I just want to get where I'm going, and it would never occur to me to yell at a woman, no matter what she's wearing. I can't. That's the part that feels alien. I feel like the people who do that are of a different, I'm not even going to say a different culture, because a lot of them look and dress like me, but they were definitely raised by different people. It's just hard to relate to stories like that.
I mean, I don't think that chivalry is dead. I mean, I've absolutely seen it. There's this very sweet old man. He just passed away recently, but he, until then, and he was like so fragile, would just stand at the door to the church building and open it for all the ladies, and he would always, kiss my hand and just be very gentle and sweet. And there's absolutely examples of people being chivalrous. I mean, well, my husband and I were dating. He'd open my car doors for me. Now, 10 years later, he doesn't do that anymore, but I think it's just a practicality thing. He's like, well, I already won you over, so open your own door. But I do think that there's a problem. I think that one thing is that I think not as many men have that example of chivalry. I think there's probably a lot more abusive fathers, or at least maybe not physically, but kind of emotionally, that aren't necessarily giving that example to their sons of, let's show our mother this respect, and let's let's make her feel special because it's a special part of our family and a place of honor for her. And do that for your sisters. And I don't know. I think that there's kind of maybe you don't see that as often for men to look at for as an example. I think that women send a lot of mixed messages. I know because I feel a lot of mixed messages. I feel like I'm supposed to not want a man to open a door for me, but I do want him to open a door for me. And if I'm confused about it, like I totally get why there would be someone that would be hesitant. Like if I open that, is she gonna think that I think she's weaker, or is she going to be like, hey, I can open my own door, or is she gonna say, thank you, I appreciate that, or she's gonna give me a weird look because I'm a stranger, don't talk to me or don't look at me. I think it is confusing. I even feel like some sense of failure if I have to ask my husband to open up a jar of pickles for me or something because the lid's stuck. I'm like, oh, I could do this myself. It's fine. And I'm like getting a hammer and I'm like, I can do it. I am woman. Hear me roar. I don't need no man to help me. And so there's like a sense of we're not supposed to want those things, but I mean, truth being told, I do want those things. I love that my husband opened my door for me when we were dating. Nobody ever done that for me before. It made me feel really special, really treasured. And I think that's nice, especially in a culture where women are, get catcalled on the street and people treat her like a piece of meat. It's nice to have really good men in her life that can treat her like she's precious and like she's special. And not that she can't protect herself, but that he's protecting her too, and just someone looking out for you, having your back, and I think that's really special.
There's a movie. One of my favorite movies is Count of Monte Cristo, which is nothing like the book. But there's a part where a guy shows up to the main bad guy's house, and he's upset because the main bad guy has basically been sleeping with his wife, right? And so he challenges him to a duel, right? And so this well-meaning husband, to defend the honor of his wife, who has been sleeping with this other man, ends up dying, right? And so the bad guy is like, well, now, he is dead and she is ruined, so blah, blah, blah. But there was that day and age where, like, when stuff happened, guys would kill each other over a woman's honor. That was chivalry, right? And obviously you have your fairy tales where the guys will hop on the horse and put on the armor and rescue, the damsel from the tower and the dragon and the witch and all that kind of stuff. But that's what fairy tales are made of. But it was an undergirding narrative for our culture, and of course it works itself out different in certain cultures. Like in Native, it's interesting that both of the ladies mentioned the door thing, because in Native American culture, men go first to check for danger. And then they call the women in. But we're obviously talking about more of our culture, and so our culture is understood to be chivalrous, to hold the door for ladies. I had my girlfriend in college. Her name was Amanda, and I, for lack of a better word, I had her so trained. I'm actually using her words because I made it a point I told her, you, when you were with me, are not to touch the door. It is my job and my honor to open the door for you. And so she would stop everywhere we went. She would stop short of the door, even if she was ahead of me, and I would open the door for her, and she would go in, right? And she said to me later on that, like you, Kara, she felt honored and cherished for that. But then it had this weird side effect where she would go out, and I wouldn't be with her somewhere, and she would just stop and stare and look at the doorknob like,
what do I do?
Like if she was by herself, and she's like, I know I can open it, but I'm just so used to stopping and having someone else do it for me. And there would be guys who wouldn't. They'd open it and go in and just kind of look at her like, why are you standing there? Are you unable to open a door? But some of the things on this list are interesting, and I found myself doing them with my girlfriend now. Like the first one on the list is he stands when she walks in the room, and she waits to sit. Yeah, well, we were at this event the other day. My job put on this event, and it felt kind of weird, kind of awkward to do it because nobody else in the room is standing. There's a panel discussion going on, and she comes into the event and comes up to I didn't stand when she came in the room, but I stood when she came to the table. And it felt awkward because there's this presentation going on, but I wanted to try to honor her. And so I stood, And she didn't know she didn't understand what was going on at the moment because I've never done this before. It's like I read this on the list. I was like, why not try it, right? And so she comes in and I stand up. She's like, what? Are we going somewhere? Like, what? Why are you getting up? And so she finally sat down, and I kind of, it felt awkward, but when I was done, I was like, yeah, that felt good. That felt chivalrous. That felt cool, and she was deserving of that, modicum of respect. And so, I mean, things like opening the door for her, never criticizing a homemade meal. I did criticize a meal that she had made for me one time, and it broke her heart. And I've learned not to do that. By large, almost everything she makes is great, so it's like, by comparison, this is not good. But,
even if it's burnt to a crisp, always just eat.
always compliment it.
That's the secret.
But pulling out the chair, sitting after she sits, helping her take her coat on and off. I do those kinds of things. But some of these things that are on this list, to me, it's interesting that this list has to even exist, because some of these things, like the standing and sitting, I don't do naturally. But the door, the picking up the check, carrying a bag if it's too heavy, holding an umbrella over their head if it's raining. It's actually kind of why I got a really, really big umbrella so we could both be under it. But so I'm smart on the chivalry there. But there's so many things on this list that I'm like, duh, this should be what you do. But I guess the list exists because there are a lot of guys who don't and are dropping the ball on this. And I'm not trying to say I'm the perfect guy, because there's things on here that I haven't done. There's some things I'm just like, I don't need to do that. But
I don't think this list is all inclusive. I love everything that's on this list, but I think it speaks to what you were talking about earlier. It's just the general culture of women's lib kind of has a lot to answer for, in the sense that, as Kara mentioned, we grow up in a day and age where we're told by media, by movies, by pop culture icons, whoever, that we're supposed to be independent, we're supposed to do everything ourselves, or want to do everything ourselves, and we're supposed to not need a man. And I don't even think these things on this list are about needing a man, but about wanting a man. If that, if you, that, I don't mean that in the bad way, but just in the sense of showing that mark of deference, to say, you know what, I'm not opening this door for you because I think you can't handle it. I'm trying to show respect and to show that you are valued. There's a great old sermon from Peter Marshall, the Scottish minister who was chaplain of the Senate during World War II in the 1950s. And he has this great sermon that I absolutely love about women's lib. And he talks about the fact for 2,000 years, women were not men's equals. She was superior. For a woman to achieve equality with men, she had to step down. And all through these centuries, you talk about those fairy tales and things, women were kind of put on that pedestal of being different, made of finer, more delicate clay, as the sermon says. And it's the women who didn't want to be treated that way anymore and wanted to insist that they can do everything a man can do, and to be treated like men meant losing that deference. And I think we, women, as women, I say we, kind of dropped the ball on that. And now we have generations of women who don't even know what it means, that if you offer to pick up a check, they take it as an insult, not as a mark of deference. And so we've just kind of screwed it up on both ends, I think. Guys, like you said, are afraid to do some of these things for women because they think the woman's going to either be insulted or she's going to think you want to get into her knickers. And the women are just kind of lost and floundering because they're not being raised in a culture that says you are deserving of these kind of marks of respect. And there's another list too that talks about ways that women can show deference and respect for men too, regardless of dating relationships.
And so I'm interested on your thoughts on that, because we did a podcast not too long ago about 10 guys to marry or 10 guys to avoid, and 10 women to avoid, 10 things to avoid, those kind of things. And when it got to the women's, it really just got very, very kind of almost bossy. Not that it wasn't bossy on the guy side, but I guess on the guy side of chivalry, because I'm doing a lot of the things that are on that list, I'm like, yeah, duh, of course. And I'm not taking it as like an imperative because I'm already doing those things. But the reciprocal article here that talks about the 21 things that women can do, or Lost Lady traditions, I hesitate to say, yeah, ladies should be doing that because of, and this is where my fear comes in. Like, if I say that a woman should do this if I'm doing this, then I feel like it takes away from my being chivalrous, because I stand because I want to, not because you owe me something in return. So if I stand, I'll stay standing until you sit. Should you sit quickly? According to the list for ladies, yes, you should sit quickly. So, but I feel like that's bossing you around. Like, if you stood standing, I would just stay standing, right? But it's kind of, yeah. How do you women? You women. How do you? How do the two ladies on the podcast? What do you think about the 21 lady traditions that are still applicable today?
Calvin, I was just going to say we should really be respectful and call them girls or chicks. So.
Wait, say that again? You were kind of muffled.
We should really be respectful and call them girls or chicks.
Oh, babes. Hey, babes.
Hey, I am nothing if not chivalrous.
Wow, Kevin wasn't even waiting.
So what are the chicks? What do the babes think?
Well, when I read the woman's list, to me, it just seems like good manners that everybody should do. Turning off your phone
You mean the babes list, right? The babes list?
Yeah, the babes list.
We're going to call it the babes list. The chick list.
Yeah, it talks about not using rude or vulgar language. Don't talk with your mouth full. I mean, duh, does that have to be specific to women? I would have to say I was a little underwhelmed with the women's list, just because to me these are much more specific, like manners for everybody, saying yes please and no thank you, giving compliments only when they're sincere and when you mean it. I mean, everybody should do that, not just women. A man should turn off his cell phone when you're having a meeting with someone. You know, a man's word should be his bond just as well as a woman's, number 13 on this list here. So I didn't think the woman's list specifically, to me anyway, it didn't talk to the same sense of chivalry that the men's list did. However, that being said, we've just been sitting here talking about how women don't know how to let men act chivalrously toward them. Maybe some of the, like, maybe I'm in the same situation that you were in, Calvin, where I read all of this and I'm like, duh. Maybe there are women out there who don't realize that you need to, you know, that these are good manners.
Yeah, I'm kind of just looking through some of them for the first time right now, and it's interesting. Some of them are, like, I agree with you, Amy, are totally like, she says yes please and no thank you.
Yeah,
well,
they're not really parallel to the guides list at all.
They're not. But some of them they're just like, they're etiquette, and I don't necessarily think, I don't know. Like, I'm looking at the one that's like, if you're going to someone's house, you should bring a small hostess gift. Yeah. I think that's super nice. Like, I definitely, like, I would love to do that all the time and get on Pinterest and think of all kinds of grand ideas. And I'll actually probably do that like 2% of the time. But I have the intentions. It's a nice idea. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a lot. I feel like women have a lot of pressure to do that kind of stuff already. And it's hard to be the lady that's always RSVPing immediately to an invitation or bringing a small hostess gift to the party, because we do really, I mean, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but before I, was working as much as my husband, so it was, it's just an interesting, like, as culture shifts, and maybe there's, I don't know, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's just like, it's kind of strange. Like, why does a woman have to bring the hostess gift?
Yeah. I will tell you, I love 15 through 17, even though my knee-jerk reaction to 16 was kind of, like, I like number 15 because time frame. No one gets to call you on a whim to hang out. Your time is precious and valuable, and you are clearly booked days in advance. Someone who honors your time will plan ahead and ask you to take you out at least a 48-hour request. And for me, I'm a spontaneous guy. I'm like, what are you doing right now? And like, I'll get on Facebook. Where are you? What are you doing? Nothing? You want to go hang out and watch a movie right now? I'm that kind of guy. But as I'm thinking, so it kind of, I was like, no, I don't like that. But then I thought about it. I was like, dude, if she was like, hey, you know what? 2 days from now I'm free. That lets me know you value the time that I'm asking for. Your time is precious. I need to value that, and then it gives me time to plan rather than something spontaneous that everybody can do. Let's just go to the movie. Let's go to coffee. Everybody can do that. Why can't I do something creative? I got a couple days to plan now. But number 16 is really interesting. You don't meet a guy anywhere. He comes and picks you up, especially on the first date. It can be inconvenient, but is it your job to make dating you convenient? No. The last thing you want to be is convenient. However, if you're meeting someone in person for the first time, meeting in a neutral location is a smart, safe move. Always honor your intuition. I tend to find more often than not now in today's dating generation, if you're meeting someone in person for the first time, meeting in a neutral location is smart, safe move. Which, for me, I understand we're in the internet dating age and all that stuff. You could be meeting crazy people. I've done a lot of online dating. But because I've been raised a chivalrous guy, I've always wanted to go pick someone up from their house. But in my adult dating life, that has never happened once. I think women are being taught that you cannot trust men. They will rape you and take you out into the woods and kill you if they pick you up from your house. You don't want to let him know where you live, because after the date, if it goes well, he might become a stalker and come and try to find you and kill you, that kind of thing. And so I get it, but it kind of bugs me because I wish, because of who I am, I could pick someone up. But then that number 17, the curfew, 21st century dating guy, I'm kind of like, no. You know, Mama always said nothing good happens past 10 o'clock. A woman who tells me that she wants to be home by 10 o'clock for a date, I'm kind of like, I don't even want to date you. I don't at all, because nothing fun happens until 10 o'clock. Let's be like, we want to go to the restaurant and then go dancing. That doesn't happen till later. But at the same time, I'm like, if a woman told me she had to be home by 10 o'clock and I had a great date with her, that would leave me wanting more. I would be like, she had to be home at 10. I want to know what would happen if we stayed out till 11. You know, and so like next time we'll try to push it till 11 or whatever. But, you know, just kind of the idea, that kind of idea, I hate it, but I like it at the same time, because it makes me want her more. If she's like, okay, time's up, you know, I got to be home. I'm turning into a pumpkin now. It was great to see you, maybe a kiss goodnight, and that's how it goes. But that's just me. That's just me.
I find it interesting that it seems like these lists, and I just found the one for ladies, because I got added to this podcast kind of late, so I'm reading it on the fly here. It seems that both of these lists have some really good information and were also written in 1950, because there are men and they're holding umbrellas over their ladies. And
hey, Kent, when you turn away, you become really muffled. So if you could face when you're talking.
Should I repeat all that?
Yes.
Okay. I find it really interesting that there's a lot of good advice on both of these lists, but they seem to have been written in the 1950s, because according to these lists, I'm supposed to be holding an umbrella over somebody, and I don't own one. I don't.
That's on you, man. It's not like people don't carry umbrellas anymore.
I don't walk anywhere, and so I don't know. So like I said, I'm trying to work my way through these. I'm just getting through the lady list now. I had an experience several years ago where I was dating a girl who I broke up with, not because of this, but it should have been, and it kind of was a clue that things were not going to work out when we had a fight about her spending all of our meals together on Facebook on her phone, and she wouldn't talk. So that one kind of hits home. But yeah, I really don't have a pithy way to end my comment here. But these are fun. I do make calls until 10 p.m. Typically because I don't There's no people are up till 10. What are you gonna do? Okay. Come on.
Don't call past 9. Don't. That was our house rule growing up.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we never called anyone. It was
But
past 7 actually when I was a kid. But.
Cell phones have changed the game nowadays. It's like before. It's like you call the girl's house, Dad would answer, "Who's this?" Calvin's on the phone. Do we know Calvin? Do we like? Oh, okay, Calvin, it's past 8 o'clock. Blah blah blah. Now, call her during normal hours. Now it's like I can text her on her cell phone because she's in her bedroom on her cell phone. That kind of deal.
Yeah.
But anyhow, this is
something that I still do actually is I keep my phone on mute after a certain time of night. And there's one thing back from my own online dating days, and yeah, okay, you've got time differences and stuff that can play into that. But I just remember I would get some of these guys who would call, and we'd be talking on the phone till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and it just hit me at one point that I'm like, okay, would I be sitting here in my bedroom having this conversation with this person face to face at this time of night? No. So why am I letting him into this space?
Well, you never will if you have that attitude.
No. If he wants to talk to me when I'm in my pajamas in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, there better be a ring on my finger first. That's all.
I know, right? You better put a ring on it.
Yeah, but it's that boundary of saying, you know what, no, I would never, be talking to a person face to face in this situation. So why am I giving this guy this access to communicate with me whenever he wants, and it's kind of showing respect for myself, like this one list talks about. No, it's not supposed to be convenient.
But all that's going to go out the window when you meet that guy, because it's always like you just don't want to stop talking to him, right? Like when you first start dating, it's like, oh, I could talk to this girl forever. I don't even like talking on the phone. And when I first start talking to a girl, it's like, oh, this is amazing. I love the phone. This is the best invention ever. Thank you, Alexander Graham Bell. It's like, I love it. But, I get what you're saying, too. Like, you don't want to make yourself too convenient.
It's just the kind of attitude in general, and I think there are things on this list that we would all agree or disagree with. I, for one, am adamant I will always meet a guy on the first date. For, like you said, it's a safety thing. I will drive myself. I will meet you there. We'll talk. And if I get to know you better, I can trust you with more information, like my home address. But, and that's just a sad reality in this day and age. You have people who will get picked up and go to a bar, and the next thing you know, they're finding their body out in the woods 3 weeks later. It's just, as a single woman, you have to be safe. You have to be smart. But yeah.
Right, and you don't live at home now. I think back when these kinds of things were written,
exactly. If it was,
you were living at home, and so Dad had a gun, so he couldn't just show up at your house.
You're meeting Mom and Dad, and they know.
Right.
Well, any guy who's going out with me, he's still meeting someone with a gun, so that's kind of irrelevant.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go.
That was very threatening.
I know. Note to self, do not date Amy. Amy's got a gun.
I am, yes. No, seriously though, both of these lists to me just speak to the attitude in general that, you know what, you need to show respect for people. Women need to find ways to respect the men in their lives, whether they're dating or not. And vice versa. You mentioned sisters, your mom. Do you stand up when your mom comes to the table to put dinner on it? I think a guy should. I think you should be teaching young boys to do that and to say thank you and to hold out their chair for their mom if they go out. It was just that kind of reverential attitude towards each other that I think just as a society in general we've lost.
Yeah, and I think especially for the women's list that it's about respecting yourself as well and not feeling like you need to just run out to this is obviously somebody you've been dating a while, but you don't need to just run out to their car. They can come in and ring the doorbell. You're worth it. It's okay to want them to do that. It's okay to want them to hold the door for you. So I think,
nope. I'm at the curb honking the horn. Honking the horn. It's cold.
Get my pickup.
All right, well, I think we'll wind it down there. That was a lot of fun. We did go a little bit longer than normal. We try to keep this to each conversation about 30 minutes, but it was cool to have Kent on. Thanks so much for joining. We will do this again in 2 weeks, and I guess that's it. That's all she wrote. Amy, if you can stay on for just a few minutes, but Kent and Kara, have a good night.
All right, bye.
Bye.